Hello, everyone. I am so excited for you to listen to this episode, a conversation with my dear friend, Jeff Mauk. And I wanted to let you know that Jeff and I got all the way through recording and we realized that we referenced a book and we never mentioned what the book was called. So I'm going to do that now and I'll also link it in the show notes. The book is called Leadership on the Line, Staying Alive Through the Dangers of Change. And it's by Ronald Heifetz and Marty Linsky. And again, I will put those down in the show links for you. Thanks a lot. Hey everyone! Welcome back to another episode of Heal and Grow with
nickiekrommingahill.
Today,
here we talk about everything:
my
grief, hope,
from
illness,
college,
work, family,
and
tragedy,
and
possibilities, fun
Jeff
stuff, and not so
Mauk.
fun
Hello,
stuff.
Jeff.
It's all on the table.
Say hello to the people.
Let's take a look at our lives and work to heal and grow together.
Yay!
I'm so glad you're here.
Jeff Mauk is the Director of Policy for the East in Ceres State Policy Program. He leads outreach and engagement with companies and policymakers on the East Coast. Jeff's work includes building partnerships that communicate the economic and societal benefits of sustainable policies with a focus on climate and energy issues. You're going to have to explain that to the people in just a moment. Jeff grew up in Buffalo, Minnesota, and graduated from Gustavus Adolphus College, yay, with a bachelor's degree in theater and communications. So did I. His career in policy and politics began with jobs at the Minnesota State House of Representatives and staffing statewide political campaigns. He moved to Washington, D.C. in 2014 to take on the role of executive director of the National Caucus of Environmental Legislators. This past spring, Jeff earned a master's degree in public administration from the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, and he continues to live in D.C. Yes! What a bio. What a bio. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Ooh, I like it. Hello. Okay, people. Jeff and I are going to explain to you how we know one another. So we met at school. We met at Gustavus.
In the theater department.
Did we meet in a class? I feel like you tell a story about how we were hanging out on the couch one time. So there was this, it's still there. There was this little nook in the basement of the theater department where everyone would just hang out. And I'm looking back, we were probably so obnoxious. I'm sure I was. Because we would just like...
Well, we were a contrast. I remember that I was so reserved back then.
Yeah.
I really was in a shell, and I just was so impressed by you. We're much more gregarious and outgoing. And I was simultaneously drawn to and scared of you.
and rebelled. Which is funny because now, however many years later, 30 years later, gosh, really, it truly has been like 28 or 29 years, hasn't it?
Amazing, yeah.
Oh my God. I feel like I'm a little more reserved than I was, and you seem way more outgoing than when I met you.
I really think it is my true nature that I had to discover along the way, for sure.
I love that. Yeah, okay, so we met at school. We met doing shows together. We met in theater classes together. We were the only two people our class that had a theater communication degree. Isn't that right?
Well, there was one more. There was Becky.
Whoops. Oh, sorry, Becky. I'm sure you're listening. But yeah, there were three of us.
Yes.
What was your minor?
Music.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How did I forget that? I don't know. Mine was dance.
I remember.
And then, well, sort of during college, but also after college, Jeff and I both worked together at a theme park that's local to Minneapolis, St. Paul called Valley Fair.
Well, not only did we work there, but you were the one that told me. You were the one that suggested that I work there. I mean, completely altering the course of my entire life, Nikki. I mean, you think about pivot points, pivot moments, and I can still remember the conversation we had in the theater department when you said, Jeff, you should be a bear.
You should be. What? Wow, don't take that out of context, everybody. I meant you should literally be a bear, a Berenstain bear.
Papa Bear, to be
Papa
specific.
Bear, yes. Yeah, so the Berenstain Bears used to be sort of the mascots of Valley Fair, would you say?
Yeah.
There's a whole land, Berenstain Bear land, essentially. And the very first year it was open, I was there. I was Sister Bear. Can we say that? This isn't like, because at Disney, they say like, I'm friends with Minnie Mouse, which means that
Which we did. When we were there, we took that very seriously.
Yeah, you're right. We did.
But now we don't have the same restrictions. We were not Disney.
Well, and it's not there anymore, so I don't feel too bad.
No, we're fine. We're not traumatizing anyone, I hope.
Oh, sorry. I guess there should have done a content warning at the beginning of. I'm going to have to go back and be like, content warning if you have small children in your car. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then the next year, I said, I think you should audition for this.
Yeah. And it never would have occurred to me otherwise.
Right.
Your validation of that, telling me what a great experience it was, got me to consider it.
Well, it's interesting because that was, I'm glad you did that. Yay. B, you killed and it was awesome. C, we have more Valley Fair history that we could talk about. But D, for me, that was one of the best acting gigs I think I've ever had. And when I say that, people are like, what? Because you have a head on over your head and it has a fixed expression on it. It's not like Disney now where the characters can move their mouths and things like that. Like we had no control over our facial expression. Therefore, you had to use the rest of your body to convey your emotion. And I think it made me a better actor, actually.
I agree. As well as the improvising too that you do with that, because some days you were not in costume, but you had to speak for the character and usher them around.
Right.
And you had to just really think a lot about how to make people happy, and very quickly assess the situation and figure out how you could make the most of it and make someone's day. Yeah.
I mean, it really was a magical experience, truly.
Looking back, as well as I think one thing that was really fun was the opportunity to experience being a celebrity. But then it's for 20 minutes at a time, and then you're not anymore.
Right.
You're adored. Right. People see you. They run towards you. They want your autograph. They want pictures with you, and they want hugs. And it just fills you up. But then it doesn't go too far to your head because then it's over after the end of your appearance.
Right. And then you're out of costume and you walk out of the building, and the same children that adored you a moment ago have no idea who you are. Yeah. Yeah. It really was a special job. I would recommend listeners, if you ever get a chance to do mascot work, try it. And also make sure that there's a human with you because
things can go sideways really quickly.
Right. People like to try to take your costume off of you. They come in and push you and like some poor behavior, but not most of the time. I mean, most of the time it was just wonderful.
Right.
Yeah. So Jeff and I had that experience together. We actually didn't work in bear country at the same time. Did we?
No.
No, I did it for 2 years. And then, so your first year must have been 1996 because my first year was 1994. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. But to have that, so even though we weren't together, to have that sort of same experience was really cool. And then we both were seasonal managers for the entertainment department at Valley Fair. I was there for 2 years. Were you also there for 2 years?
I did one more after you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was a really great experience too. I can't really imagine having that experience with anyone besides you.
It was amazing. Because we just, I don't know if I've ever had a job where we laughed so hard and, cried sometimes too. I mean, it was hard.
It was a hard gig.
It was challenging, but going through that with you. And I mean, that's what really, I think, forged a deep friendship here. When
I agree.
Just working on that together and building this, we didn't just put on shows. We kind of built up the department to be something it hadn't been before because we loved it so much.
Yeah. we so just a little bit about that in case anyone is interested. And if you're not interested, we're going to talk about it anyway. But there was one person who, hi, Christopher, if you're listening. There was one person who was full-time year-round in the entertainment department. And then Jeff and I would come on in January, February to go through auditions because I know the entertainment department at Valley Fair is very different now than it was when we were there. But we would do like a little audition tour. We'd go to some of the bigger, maybe not bigger, it's not what I mean, the more music-driven colleges around the area. I'm not saying the right thing.
Sure. Well, schools that had robust musical theater programs.
Yeah, thank you. We go to Chicago. We had this little tour, and we would tour around with Chris. And I have some of the best memories doing that. The three of us in a vehicle, just road tripping, so fun. And then we didn't really start the job until maybe March or April. Anyway, we would help cast the shows and get everything going. And then once all the shows were up and running, it was our job to maintain them. And I learned a lot during that time. And I think one of the reasons why I got my job that I have right now at Alive and Kickin' as a company manager is directly because of that Valley Fair job.
It was an early opportunity for both of us to realize what we could really do as leaders.
Yeah. Yeah. And both of us were performers. And so then to have an opportunity to be on the other side of that, I think made us better performers. But just that's when I realized, there'll be a time where I'm not performing anymore. I can still stay in the business, just doing something else. So that was an amazing time. And then Jeff moved to California for a while. What did you do in California?
A little bit of everything. The thing was, I didn't really know quite what I wanted to do. I wanted to try a lot of things. And so that's what I did.
Yeah.
I did an internship at a production company. I did one at a casting agency.
Is that the one when Eric LaSalle was?
Yeah.
Do you guys remember Eric LaSalle? I remember him from Coming to America.
Yes, it was his production company.
Yeah.
Man. And I did some extra work on some TV shows. I did character supervision at Universal Studios Hollywood theme park. Tried a lot of things.
Yeah.
I even rented cars to people at Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
It's a pretty amazing training program they have. But so I tried a lot, just realized, you know what? I didn't want to do any of it. I had some great adventures, but I was spending a lot of time. You'd be on set and you had a lot of time before you would go on as an extra. And so I started reading the newspaper a lot and getting caught up in the news and really feeling passionate about what was going on. And it was right around that time as well that I was an extra on The West Wing, was my favorite TV show, all about the presidency. And when I was younger, I had never seen a place for myself in the political world. It didn't occur to me that there was something there for me. And actually that show was kind of this bridge where it was, entertainment, but I saw, the people, these characters, that's kind of what I want to be doing. That's really exciting to me. That's where my passion is. And so I came back to Minnesota then to get into this whole policy and politics world.
Okay. That was an amazing segue. Clapping. Clapping. That's me not actually clapping, but just telling you that I would be. What? Why don't I just do it?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's no problem. No problem. So tell us about either or both your job in Minnesota and then the job that you have now.
Well, I was really fortunate that I was able to get in at the House of Representatives at the very lowest level. I was a 30-year-old House page, which meant I delivered messages and staffed committees and passed out, bills to legislators. But it was amazing. I got to be right on the House floor, this beautiful chamber that we have. If you haven't seen it, please take a tour of the Minnesota State Capitol. I've been to many state capitals, and we have truly one of the best.
I've never taken a tour, so it's on my list now.
It's beautiful marble from all over. It's spectacular.
The only time I've really been to the Capitol was, I can't remember the year, was it 2014? Where we were hoping to pass the vote no.
Yes.
Yeah.
2010.
That was 2010?
Oh, wait, no, 2012, because
2012.
The new majority came in 2010, and that was one of the first things they did was try to put the anti-marriage equality measure. Yeah. And so then it was in 2012 was the election where we fought it and had rallies at the Capitol.
Okay, yeah, so that's the only time I've ever even stepped foot in the Capitol, and it was raucous. Lovely. But it was awesome. I ended up hanging out with you and, our friend Bradley from Gustavus and other people. And I was with my mom and I was like, oh, it's really pretty here. I should come back when there's not so many people. Okay. Anyway, I digress. So you started out as a page.
Yeah. Well, and I still remember one of those early moments where I just was standing there and there was a debate going on about whatever issue of the day. And I was just looking at the faces of these legislators in this beautiful chamber, and it just felt like lightning struck me. Wow. It just felt like, oh, this is it. I've been searching my whole life and bouncing around trying to figure out what is my mission, and this is it. I love this, and I've finally found my path.
I love that. I'm tearing up because I don't know that I've ever knew like what was the moment for you to decide to stay in politics.
Yeah, I just early on, it just felt so right. And I needed that. I needed to, there were so many lessons I needed to explore in other things. And I always gained something from each of those experiences. And they probably helped me then when I did find the right thing.
Yeah.
I had a lot of wisdom, or I think, to bring to that.
So then you moved to DC. I'm jumping ahead, but like you're moving to DC and you become the executive director.
Yes. It was one of those things. I wasn't expecting to leave Minneapolis again.
Yeah.
And I was working remotely for this organization that was based in DC, and the executive director quit, and I had to do it. I just felt like this was an opportunity I couldn't turn down. And I was a little bit scared. I thought DC was going to be way too intense for me, way too much. And I had been really worried about making that step, and then it ended up being just the most wonderful thing that could have happened to me. It was just the best opportunity.
We were just talking before we started recording about DC. I came to visit you probably 4 or 5 years ago now. I just wanted to visit Jeff. That's why I was going out there. I had no interest in going to DC. I don't know what I thought it was going to be, but it was nothing like that. If you have not been to DC, make a trip. It's beautiful. It's completely doable. It's walkable. You can look to your right and there's a historical monument, and then you look to your left and there's Starbucks. And I don't know, it's just, I never even thought that it was a livable city, and I was absolutely wrong about that. I mean, it's just so super cool. Okay, sorry, go ahead. I just need to do my little plug for DC.
I love it. It's like you say, just incredibly walkable. That is something that I love, and there's beautiful architecture all around you, and it's very lively. A lot of people come to work there from all over the country, all over the world, and so it's this really neat melting pot.
Yeah.
Too, and a lot of young people, a lot of nightlife. It's really not what people expect if they haven't visited yet.
Yeah, it's just, I can't wait to go back. Who knows when that's going to be? I want to go when the cherry blossoms are in bloom, just like the rest of the world probably shows up then.
It's incredible. It gets very busy, but for a very good reason.
Yeah. So tell us about the work you were doing. We got a lot to cover, but what kind of work were you doing?
So as the executive director of the National Caucus of Environmental Legislators, we had a very small staff, and our mission was to connect and assist state legislators who were working on environmental issues all over the country. We saw the power that could happen when they could coach each other. So many organizations, companies will spend huge amounts of money on lobbyists to go meet with legislators and just, try to, coerce them or just try to convince them to vote a certain way on something.
Yeah.
And we realized the power in creating a community of people that could coach each other, that could exchange ideas, that could decide to work together on issues in different states at the same time, and so we were really this hub, this connector for all these people all over the country.
Yeah. And you were there for a while.
Yes, I was. Yeah. Started in 2014. Well, I started this job as executive director 2014, and then
Oh gosh.
yeah. So
Where does the time
almost
go?
10 years ago. Yeah.
Back when I was a kid. And then you make this decision to try something else, to be vague. Tell us about that.
I had heard from some people, including the person who helped me get in at the Minnesota House of Representatives. It was then at the time Speaker of the House, Margaret Anderson Kelleher, had gone to Gustavus.
Yes.
Someone I very much looked up to
Yes.
as a role model. And she had mentioned how she had gone to Harvard for this mid-career Master's of Public Administration degree. And this was years ago. I'd heard about this, and this kind of little nugget just stuck in the back of my head, this mid-career, because I'd wanted to go to grad school at some point, but early on I didn't know what to study, so it would have been a waste. And here I am, like, now I'm in my 40s. Is it, you're wondering, is that even a possibility anymore? And here's this program that allows you to just be gone for 2 semesters, full-time, be immersive, get this whole experience, and then you're back out in the workforce again.
Wow.
And so it stuck in the back of my mind. And then coming out of the pandemic, we had grown the staff, and I was feeling like, yeah, the organization could go on without me in charge of it. And so I thought maybe this is the time to give this a shot. And I applied, and I still remember I was in a Zoom meeting in my office. I glance over and I see an email come in March of 2022, I guess it was.
Yeah.
And I had to like hide my excitement. I was so excited. I clicked and I saw that I got in.
Oh my God.
It was just one of the most wonderful things that could have happened to me.
Yeah. What was the application process like?
Many essays, really.
Okay.
And amazingly enough, I didn't even have to take a test. Yeah, it was really
interesting
because they were very interested in your narrative. They wanted to know what was your leadership journey, because at the Kennedy School, it's the John F. Kennedy School of Government, is this particular graduate school there, very focused on leadership, very focused on growing people as people. And so they want to know, like, are you really committed to service? And so that's what a lot of these essays focused on. They want to say, like, tell us how you are contributing and want to contribute to the world.
Did undergraduate grades factor in at all? Did you have to send in a transcript?
I did.
Yeah.
My grades weren't terrible. They weren't amazing.
Yeah.
But I don't know I don't think that was as big a factor for them as what people, because especially this was a mid-career program, they wanted to know what was the trajectory of your career.
I love that. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you pack up your life in DC for how long is 2 semesters? 7 months, 8 months?
Yeah. Well, and then including there was a summer program for us too, so it became closer to 9 because they had to teach us how to be students again. We were all these people that had been out. Most of us had been out of school for so long, that we really had to knuckle down, and it was this kind of slowly over 5 weeks, like teaching us how to studying and get good reading habits and all that going again.
That is so smart that they did that.
It felt like being at camp.
Yeah.
And it was a neat thing because my cohort, there were 250 of us. And in that time, we had the school to ourselves, the Kennedy School. So we had all this chance to get to know each other and bond before we got to the full school year. So that we weren't just kind of pushed into being in classes. Yeah. We actually had a lot of relationships going into that. So I think that really made the whole year even more special.
That's brilliant. I don't think that you and I have talked about that before. If we did, I forgot, which happens a lot. All right. What I really would love to talk to you about today, I got to see Jeff over the Thanksgiving break, which sort of prompted this idea today of like, let's essentially have that exact same conversation that we had over Thanksgiving, but record it. I would love for you to tell our listeners about, I think was it your J-term class so almost a year ago.
Yeah.
I would love for you to tell our listeners about that class, because, well, as soon as he told me about it, I went out and bought the book. Of course, I haven't read it yet, but like, I think it's fascinating. I think the people that listen to this podcast will think it's fascinating. So yeah, you just go for it and I'll interrupt you.
Well, thank you. I think I didn't fully know what I was expecting out of graduate school.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to learn a lot about policy and kind of get some environmental knowledge that I didn't quite know yet. I thought I was going to learn a lot from the books. One thing that I really wasn't ready for or expecting was just how much, in line with the theme of your show, how much I was going to, grow and heal from this experience. You don't go to grad school for that.
No,
but
you don't.
But because the Kennedy School is so focused on leadership and service, it's they sort of take on the theory. Like, you're on an airplane, they say, put your own mask on first before you can help someone else.
Yeah.
They take on that very same thought of, if you really want to exercise leadership, you've got to start with yourself. You need to lead yourself, but also be aware of your biases. Think about, how you need to grow. Think about how you can process your failures so that you can learn from them. And also then go deeper and think about, like, what caused you to fail in the first place. That was really the core of this adaptive leadership course that I took. That was this immersive experience for 2 weeks. But you took this one class. If people haven't taken a J-term before, you take one class for this month and you get full credit for doing it. It's as if you had taken a class all semester long, but it's all day long for these 2 weeks. And it was this, as I said, immersive experience where the course really was intended for us to kind of practice exercising leadership as part of it, like with our peers. There are times the professor would just stop talking and it was up to us to kind of lead the room and figure out how we were going to do this without an authority in charge.
Will you share, did you say on in our previous conversation, like, was it the first day, the second day, the professor just stopped talking and you guys were like, what the hell are we supposed to do right now? Or like, what?
Yeah.
Tell me about that feeling.
Well, it was really amazing. One of the first days of this course, this was actually it was semester and then the J-term. And so it was in the semester ahead of time where you kind of looked more at systems before then the J-term you look internally. And the first course, the first day, we didn't know what was going on. The professor, he was lecturing a little bit about what is leadership, what are these concepts we're going to talk about. And then he just stopped. And then when people would raise their hand to speak, he wouldn't look at them.
Something went wrong. Let's try again.
Sorry, Siri really wanted to chime in there.
I love it. Honestly, I love it when mistakes happen when we're recording because it just shows everyone, hi, we're real people. So anyway, don't worry about it.
No, okay. Where was I then?
Somebody raised their hand.
Yeah, and the professor wouldn't look their direction. And it was just so tense. You felt this ball of tension and everyone around you was tense and we didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And one person suggested that we appoint someone to call on someone raising their hands, but then that was shot down. And then there's all these, like ways people tried to process this and were freaked out. And at the end, the professor came back in and said, one of the lessons that you learned today was how much we want authority, how much we crave authority as people.
We want someone else to tell us how to XYZ, to tell us how to live.
Exactly. And or not necessarily to tell us how to live, but at least to provide order.
Yeah.
We want someone who's going to create that structure and just ensure that we can function as a group.
Yeah.
And they talked a lot about authority as authority is an agreement. Authority, we grant people authority to make decisions that we adhere to, and then we expect them to do the things. We expect them to bring order, and if they do or they don't, then they can keep or not keep that position.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so that was kind of the start of this whole thing, but and then we I think that one of the interesting things then, this whole concept of adaptive leadership has to do with,
I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
What does adaptive leadership mean?
yeah. Well, so, and this is one of the questions that in this course we had to, in order to learn that, we were told to find a case that we had failed, a place in leadership where we had failed, and to examine that and to look at why, and with a small group and the larger group to explore what had caused us to fail. And so many times there is an adaptive situation, an adaptive challenge is a situation where we don't know. We know there's something that needs to be faced. There's a challenge that has to be faced, but we don't really know what the end result looks like.
Right.
And we don't really know what the steps are to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, as opposed to a technical challenge, like building a house, you know what the steps are.
Right.
You get the materials, you hire the architect, you do all these things, and you know what it's going to look like at the end, and you know how to get there.
Yeah.
And both adaptive and technical, you need leadership. But
Great analogy.
So many times, when there's an adaptive challenge, we treat it like a technical one. And
yes.
We think, oh, well, if I just do these steps, 1, 2, 3, this will solve this.
Wow, you just blew my mind. I'm like, oh crap, I've done that for literally everything.
We all have. We all have, because we want there to be simple solutions. We want
order. Right.
And we want to believe that that we can find these steps that will just get us to what we need. But when you think of it, some of the big adaptive challenges like addressing racism or climate change, we don't know what the end result looks like. And this isn't something that you can just have numbers to guide you. And so that was really the key to this course, was to think about how do we face some of these adaptive challenges, and the way to they would say there's no such thing as a leader. A person is not a leader, because we think of someone, they have charisma, they're a leader, they tell people what to do. But really, exercising leadership, by the definition of this course, is helping people solve difficult challenges. And
people solve difficult challenges.
And so you can do that from a place of formal authority. Maybe you're the boss that makes decisions. Maybe informal authority. Maybe you're someone who knows a lot. You're an expert on a situation, so people trust you. Or you might have no authority. You might be the new intern at a new job. And at each of these levels, there's still ways to exercise leadership by helping people understand and address their challenges.
I love this. Did you know going into this class really what it was going to be about? No.
Well, a little bit.
Like, why did you choose it? Or was it something, were you required to take it?
It's funny because I thought I managed Valley Fair with Nikki. I don't need another leadership course. Come on.
Well, it's interesting. I'm going to interject for a second because I'm actually taking a leadership course right now, because Alive and Kickin' requires it of the staff, which thank you. But I'll admit, going into that class, I was like, I have a ton of leadership experience. I'm going to ace this. Not like there's anything to ace. There's no quiz or anything like that. Eric Thurwinger is the guy's name. He nipped that in the bud immediately. Not by saying it, but just within the first 20 minutes, I was like, I know nothing. I'm just shut up, be a sponge, but I just interjected because this happens a lot where you and I, or just we are like, I don't need to go do this thing. I've already done it. I already know how to do it, when really we only know a little bit. Right.
And this whole adaptive framework there were so many new tools. And it's funny. I didn't think I needed another course, but then what I heard about this course was that it really changes people. Yeah. I heard that in some ways, it really deconstructs you, kind of tears you apart and pulls you back together, and it's hard, but then you're stronger at the end of it. Someone told me this and said, I was telling one of my cohort mates, I was saying, well, I don't know if I need to take that course. And they said, Jeff, this is one of the signature courses.
Wow.
Like, this is the reason you come to the Kennedy School. You need to do this.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm so glad I got that bit of advice.
I'm so glad that you listened to that. Speaking of being torn apart, will you please share the story of how you were questioned, essentially, by your professor? Jeff told me the story back in during Thanksgiving, so now I'm trying to remember the details to spark a memory. But you were essentially chosen to be in the hot seat.
Yes.
Will you explain what that process was like for you, and what that means by me saying you're in the hot seat?
Yeah. Well, one of the lessons from the course is the value of being vulnerable. Mm. And one thing I learned about myself over the course of this was to realize just how I've been very unwilling, very afraid to be vulnerable, and also kind of very defensive, and let things be hurtful when they actually weren't meant to be hurtful.
Yep.
You know, I let myself take things personally that weren't about me, and then of course that then got in the way of exercising leadership, or really just in the way of a lot of relationships in general, and it also kind of prevented me from learning from past failures too, when you kind of let things become too personal. So this was really a lesson I wanted to dive in and practice vulnerability in this course. And we, in our small groups, we were discussing our failures, and then we would, each day we would take up one person's case, and the rest of us in the group would help them kind of examine that and examine what caused them to fail. Where did they learn this behavior that caused them?
Sounds so cool.
Well, and it's very rooted in psychology.
Sure.
The professor had studied psychology. And so then when we would come back together at the end of the day, then as the large group, over 100 people in this class, then one person would get randomly selected to have their case examined by the professor in front of the whole course.
Oh God. So how did was that just like pull a name out of a hat, or
a Scrabble tile?
Scrabble tile. Okay. Sorry, keep going. I'm getting nervous, like just listening.
Oh man, it was just this pit in my stomach, because it was me, and I thought, oh man, here we go. And I just said, well, I'm going to learn how to do this. And the course was so amazing, because another piece of this was sometimes to help people see what they don't want to see, you need to make them feel a little uncomfortable. You need to raise the heat a little bit. And that's what happened. Like, being here really kind of raised my consciousness a little bit, raised my anxiety, but also like put me in a space to explore a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so, and the professor asked me some very pointed questions about the case I'd chosen that I had failed on. And then asked me, okay, where did you learn this? And asked me like, what, where was this behavior? Where did this come from? At what point in your life? Who gave this to you? Mm-hmm. And doing this in front of this 100 people and realizing I can do this. I don't have to be afraid to share these some painful things with people. Actually, they might even benefit from me sharing.
Yes.
And that was a huge breakthrough for me.
Yeah.
As well as, so that was that experience. Then and by the end of it, I felt it was totally destabilizing, and yet so beneficial for going through that process.
Wow. I'm sure when you were done, you're like, I would go take a nap. Like, it's time to sleep for a while.
Well, that's exactly it. At the end of the day, and then at the end of the course, after 2 weeks of this, I had booked a trip to go to Florida there was a week off until the spring semester, and I canceled my trip, and I just stayed in, and I kind of did some journaling and reflecting, and I just kind of went away or I just stayed in for a little while to just kind of process everything that had happened.
Right. And sort of just decompressing, come down from that, because it sounds incredibly beneficial. Like, I'm like, does he do an online course? I want to do it. But to be in that intense of a situation, day after day, talking about some really major things. Yeah. And for some of you, well, for all of you, but you had to do this in front of everybody, just like opening up your entire heart and breaking down some walls in order to fully participate sounds absolutely incredible and exhausting.
and exploring traumas together too.
Right.
And in some ways learning that you can speak about your traumas, and you don't have to be afraid to do that.
Right.
That actually when you can say things, when you can share things about yourself, you're helping other people find similar, you're making connections to people
really
that have
are.
been through something similar.
Yes.
And you're also, taking away some of the stigma about talking about some of these things that we are unnecessarily afraid to talk about.
Right. Right. Which is one of the reasons why I like to do this podcast, is just, even though it's painful I'll admit, Jeff and I have been friends for how long? 20 some years. But I walked away from our breakfast together over in November feeling like I knew you better than I ever have. And there was, I don't know how to explain it, because I've never felt that you've been carrying along like some extra luggage. I've never felt that around you. And yet when we left breakfast, I was like, he just seems more at peace than I've seen you seem more at peace than I've seen you maybe ever. And perhaps that has to do with this class. Maybe it's just because, you're from Harvard now. I know you have a new job now, but I'm just really, for the lack of sounding like I'm babying you, I'm really proud of you for doing some really hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah. So are you able to tell us anything specific about, and obviously whatever you're comfortable with, but like what parts of you have healed in the past year? What have you been working on that maybe you had said, no, I'm not going down that road, but now you are going down that road? Like, how you're different now. Why?
I think so much I attribute to this class, as well as the whole year being able to step away and reflect. What an incredible gift that was, that I was able to do that and kind of be guided through some of these reflections too, and to think about so many of these things. But for me, about myself, we started the conversation talking about me being in this shell.
Yeah.
And I realized just how much I had learned from my childhood, from, what had been modeled to me, to always try to please other people and to really think about, my identity and how I always wanted to present a certain way. I wanted people to like me, and I wanted to say the right thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to be really careful about what I said, so I would say the right thing so I could please everyone. And that's where this shell came from, as well as, being in the closet when I was young and having, hiding all that away, always like feeling I had to present, and I didn't want to burden people. I didn't want to be a burden on people. I didn't want to ask for help. I had to take it all on myself.
Yeah.
And these were all things that have caused me to fail in different ways over the years. And, as well as sometimes succeed,
Sure.
And so that's the thing too, that you want to be mindful of, what you want to keep and what you want to leave behind.
Right.
But
because the acting career can certainly come in handy.
absolutely. Side note, studying theater and acting was a huge boon for everything else I did, because they teach you to be more in connection with yourself.
Yeah.
But for me, and then, when I, like in this, over the course, when I was doing my deep reflection and speaking to my mom, I found out how much of what I had learned had been passed on to me from past generations.
Yeah.
And how I was carrying these waters from past generations. Very sadly, when my mom was a teenager, her dad had died by suicide. And when I look back and think of, and she is so loving. She is the best person I know. My mom, so sweet.
Hi, team.
But also, very much what I've described in myself is what I learned from her.
Sure.
Is to, take everything on and don't be a burden and don't talk to people. And when I stopped and thought about, really put myself in her shoes, the 16-year-old, my mom's shoes. And suddenly, like, she had just gotten her driver's license. She was the one in the family who had to take care of everything.
Right.
She became the mom of the family back then and had to take it all on in this small town where there was going to be this stigma and shame. You can't talk about what happened.
Right.
And when I really stopped and let myself just absorb that and think about that and think about how, what shaped her to be what she became and then passed on to me, I just sat and I cried. I was like by a fireplace journaling on my computer, and I just sat there and just tears just dripping down my face for an hour.
Yeah.
And then when I realized so many times I wasn't even consciously fully aware of the times that I let myself be defensive or hold back or let things, like I said earlier, take things really personally. Like if someone bumps into you and I think, oh, they were a jerk to me.
Right. When really they just accidentally bumped into you.
It had nothing to do with me. They
Right.
don't know who I am. That's not some slight against my identity.
Right.
But a little, in a small way, in so many small little ways, I look back and realize how much I let that happen.
Yeah.
How much I let myself be offended by something that had nothing to do with me.
Yeah. That's major, Jeff, like to have that new perspective. And I had told you this when you had shared this with me a month ago, but I had no idea that that's how you had been living. So what has your year been like? Just like freedom or do you just feel happier?
Freedom is absolutely what it is. When you realize how much the decisions that you make are influenced by these things that you weren't aware of, and now you're aware of, and now you can consciously, instead of reacting to something, you can generate curiosity.
Right.
And to know that you have so much more ability to just, guide your own thoughts in moments like that. Freedom is the best word for it. And just peace, it's so peaceful to not feel, offended all the time by different little things that aren't, supposed to offend you.
Right. Right. I was talking to a girlfriend not too long ago, and this was when I was learning, actually getting diagnoses for my health issues instead of just wondering what the hell was wrong. And when I first was diagnosed with fibro and chronic fatigue, I was very angry about it. It wasn't like, oh, yay, relief. I am now at a place of relief. But at the time, I was just pissed off because I automatically assumed that my journey would be the same as my mom's. And a loving friend said to me, Nikki, you are not your mom. And for some reason, I was not able to get to that point on my own. But when she said it, I thought, oh yeah, I'm not. And, my dad or whatever, our parents, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt right now. Our parents teach us what they think is right. I believe that, at least with my parents. And I don't have to follow down the road that they were on. I'm on a different road, and your mom was doing the best that she could with the information that she had based on her own experience.
Absolutely. Which
really is all we have, so I just think about, my mom, your mom, my dad, your dad have made some mistakes. So have we. But they did what they thought was going to be the best thing for us, even if it wasn't.
It's true of our parents, and I think you can find a lot of peace when you can really let yourself believe that your parents did the best they can.
Yeah.
But I think beyond your parents, most people, I think if you can realize that most people are doing the best that they can, then that puts you in a mind frame to be more helpful to them and to make a better world.
Yes. Yes. Our Lord and Savior, Brene Brown, tells this story, and I'm going to totally botch it, and someone's going to be listening to this and they're going to be like, that's not how it went. But she tells this story in one of her books that she was really pissed off at the world and was like, people suck, everything sucks. And she asked her husband, do you think that people are doing the best that they can? And he said, I don't know if they're doing the best that they can, but assuming that they are is so much better for him, you know, like assuming the best in other people, which can be really challenging because sometimes people are doing dumb shit. But, you know, when you assume the best in someone, it frees them up. It frees you up. It's just a kinder, more loving way to live. I wish I was living like that all the time, but I'm not.
Well, and if you truly want to help someone, just stating an opinion about what they're doing is not likely going to help them in these situations. You know, but but somehow we think that that's how, if we just stamp our feet, and like, even if you're going to have a political debate with someone,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, you know, if you just think, so many people think they can just stamp their feet and cross their arms and I'm just going to say what I think and I'm right, that means I'm going to win the argument.
Right.
And if we can be more compassionate and approach these situations with curiosity,
There you go.
you know, let's ask questions that help them get to. That's what's going to have lasting changes, when you ask questions that help people get to where they need to be, rather than just try to explain it to them.
Going into a conversation with the goal of understanding, as opposed to the goal of trying to change someone's mind so that they think like I do. Yeah, it's just probably a more loving way to go about living in this world. It's challenging.
It's very hard because someone might be acting or speaking in a way that is not consistent with your values. And so it can be so hard to just sit and listen when that is the case. And in those situations, it's helpful to allow yourself to hold multiple thoughts in your head at the same time. Just because this thought's in your head and you're listening to it doesn't mean you're agreeing with it. It doesn't mean that you're, you know, endorsing it, but it means that you're trying to understand where they are.
Yeah.
And that has to be the first step to finding common ground.
Right. And to make change, if that's the goal.
Right.
You know, but finding the common ground, is really important, especially in, you know, there's so much crap going on, and, you know, but yes, trying to just understand and start from there.
And understanding that people want to be heard.
Yeah.
People want you to take an interest in them. And when you can do that, that's a great gift to someone, to really see them and to really ask questions and listen to them. And that's also going to build the trust. Like you say, if you want to make change, or if maybe you want to help them see something they don't necessarily want to see right now, you've got to create the space for it first.
Yeah. Yes, you have to create the space first. I love that. That's absolutely right. That needs to be. I know earlier we said there's no concrete steps to getting to where you need to go, but honestly, step one could be just create space. I basically think we just solved all of the world's problems.
That's it.
This particular podcast will probably be going viral, so just prepare yourself.
I'm excited.
Okay, well, this is a good time to like wrap it up. I'm so glad that you were willing to talk today. I love that whenever you're in town, you let me know so that I could see you, because I just adore you, mi jefe. I call Jeff jefe, which really means boss. I also call him mi perro. See, we when we were doing those Valley Fair tours that we were talking to you about earlier, this was sort of when American Idol was first coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we were like the traveling American Idol, the three of us judging people.
That's exactly what we were doing. We were judging people. I was Simon. I was the biggest judger of them all. You were Randy Jackson, probably. And then Christopher was the sweetest of all of us, and he was Paula Abdul. But we all kind of started calling each other dog, because that's
what they did on the show.
That's what Randy Jackson did, which then turned into Pero. So yeah, I have a lot of silly nicknames for you.
Me too. Well, and I always love seeing you, Nikki. I always love coming home. This will always be a home to me in Minneapolis.
Yeah. I'm glad that you feel that way, because you've kind of been everywhere. I'm glad that you still feel like this place is home to you.
Well, it is because of the loved ones that I have, which includes you.
Mwah. Oh, that's so sweet. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We love you. And as always, thank you for healing and growing with me. Mwah. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, health, or professional advice. I am not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of this podcast. This podcast is not intended to replace professional medical advice.